Does investigative business journalism have a heart? This year's gold, silver, and bronze Barlett and Steele Awards for investigative business journalism are all about compassion. Compassion for the enslaved, for the elderly, and for those in prison. At great personal risk, Associated Press reporters exposed labor abuse in the Thai fishing industry that ships its cargo to U.S. supermarkets. As a result of that reporting, hundreds of slaves were freed. It's our Gold Award winner.
I've been living and working in Southeast Asia for about 2 decades. During those years, I'd heard a lot about slavery at sea. Just one story after another about people whose identities had been stolen, they had been beaten, they had been tricked, they had been thrown overboard. But when it came to the question of how do we find out where this fish is going, they all said they had no idea.
None of us ever expected to find a slave island, but that's what we found.
They found this island of Benjina and found men being held there in cages.
There are people from my own country who've been stuck there for years, sometimes decades, and they were so desperate. It just struck me to the core.
And we certainly never expected our reporting to lead to the rescue and repatriation of more than 2,000 men.
I had done something similar where we had tracked child labor to product before, and so I was pretty intent that we follow the fish. We tracked that seafood to markets like Walmart and Cisco and Kroger, and to brands like Fancy Feast and IAMS and Meow Mix.
And I think in the end, because we were actually piecing the puzzle together ourselves, we were able to learn a lot more about the entire industry and what was going on than if we had had more direction from a source or from some other type of documents or data.
Home health agencies to handle the frail and elderly rather than treat them in hospitals have grown dramatically. But our Silver Award winner, the Minneapolis Star Tribune, discovered erratic and risky treatment along with aggressive sales tactics.
What was happening to people who were sick, who were frail, who were elderly, who were stuck in their homes, in many cases with people who were completely untrained in an industry that was unregulated.
In fact, although the state knew that this firm was in trouble, it didn't notify patients of what was going on, unlike what would happen in a nursing home situation.
Right. 1/3 of them every year turn over. Many of them go bankrupt. Many of them are just fly-by-night operations that just disappear. And what does that mean for someone who is in a wheelchair at home with a feeding tube or a ventilator machine? That could mean the difference between life and death.
There's this no regulatory infrastructure for investigating this industry. And if we can't find out what's going on, the consumers can't find out what's going on either.
A prison sentence should not be a death sentence. Our Bronze Award winner, the Palm Beach Post, investigated prison inmate medical care by for-profit companies. It uncovered soaring fatalities, poor treatment, and hidden data.
That mortality rates had skyrocketed, that the number of inmates being referred to doctors and to hospitals outside of the prison walls had dropped dramatically, and that the company that had the largest of these contracts had actually lied to Florida's Department of Corrections about its track record, both in Florida and in other states. Horizon had withheld crucial information on inmate deaths from the Florida Department of Corrections, and that there were continuing problems in getting people to appropriate care outside the prison walls, specialists such as cancer specialists or surgeries that might be needed. The head of DOC stepped down, and the aide to the governor who oversaw criminal justice issues, including the prison system, also stepped down. And in both cases, they stated it had nothing to do with our stories or really the disaster that privatization had become.
This year's Barlett and Steele Award winners analyzed business practices, financials, and documents. But in the end, it was all about compassion.